speaker barely needs introduction. Somebody who's been at demonstrations as long as I've been around, has been leading the charge for a better world, a peaceful world, a just world, a world free of the yoke of imperialism. Please give a very warm welcome to Tariq.
Friends, when the House of Commons voted through different mechanisms not to go to war and to stop Britain going to war, it was a historic day in British politics for at least half a century. And the reasons for this vote are very clear. 80% of the population of Britain, 80% of citizens were not in favour of this war. They put pressure on their members of parliament, and parliamentarians recognized that to wage war on Syria might lead to electoral problems. So there was a lot of manoeuvring going on. But at the end of the day, we won. And we have to say very clearly and openly, thank you to all the members of parliament from all the parties who decided not to vote for the government resolution committing this country to war. Margaret Thatcher, after winning her victory in the Falklands, said, "Rejoice, rejoice." Our reply is that the House of Commons has voted against going to war. Rejoice, rejoice. And you know one important thing to understand, and I'm tired of saying this, I say it all over the world, that it matters if you have a campaign like the Stop the War Coalition in this country, which carries on regardless, whether it mobilizes 1.5 million people or whether it mobilizes 500 people against wars. The fact that such a campaign exists helps to create and sustain an anti-war presence in this country. Now, what is interesting is what this vote has done. After the vote happened, many sectors of the British establishment were in a state of shock. One of them was the BBC, which couldn't believe that this vote had taken place. And if you look at their well-made-up faces as they go on the television screen, they're in a state of shock, saying, what have the politicians done? Because we were all prepared to go to war. If you look at the cover of this week's Economist, war. So all the people who were prepared for war are finding it difficult to adjust to the situation, including many Blairite Labour MPs who didn't realise what was going on and now are asking, what have we done? But whether you did it right or wrong, what you did was right. And you know, it feels strange. I've lived in this country for 40 years or more. And it really feels strange because you feel for the first time that you're in an independent country. That for once this country has decided not to go to war. And the effect of this vote shouldn't be underestimated. In the United States, the entire American media is talking about it, saying what happened. And congressmen are demanding, a number of congressmen are demanding that there should be a debate and a discussion in the US Congress. And today's newspapers are saying that the mood in America is very anti-war, that if Congress were allowed to meet, if the US Congress were allowed to meet, there is no guarantee that they would vote for Obama to go to war. And the response of the White House and Obama is, we are not going to ask Congress to reconvene because what we are doing is not really a war, it's just a surgical raid. Well, we've seen these surgical raids before. We saw them in Iraq for 10 years before they finally occupied the country. We saw them in Afghanistan. We are seeing the drone attacks in Pakistan today. So when you decide to go this route, to do what you're planning to do to Syria, effectively it is a declaration of war against a sovereign independent Arab state. And if Obama had the guts, he would say to the Congress, okay, convene, have a debate, get his supporters in Congress to argue the case. Why isn't he doing it? Because they are nervous, because a majority of American citizens, understand this, a majority of American citizens are not in favor of any involvement in Syria. And if you heard the US Secretary of State John Kerry speak yesterday, he said, oh well, Britain is Britain, but our oldest ally was always France. Well, if your oldest ally was always France, why did you punish it when they voted against the war in Iraq? Why did you change the name of French fries to freedom fries? Are you going to change the name back to French fries again? And in effect, in France too there is division. France too is divided, but the Blairite socialist government under Hollande is committed to go to war. But the British vote and the anti-war fervor in this country has taken both Europe and the United States by surprise. I know we are very happy that this vote passed. I know that if that vote hadn't passed, we probably would have had more people out here. But that is an understandable reaction, but a wrong one. Because as long as the United States are planning to bomb Syria, we need to be vigilant and we need to come out in larger and larger numbers. We mustn't just depend on Parliament.